All right, you guys, welcome back to Silver Sage, and I'm so excited to have Sam with us today. This is my first interview with someone, and so what I thought would be fun is that we just get to know our guests because Sam has an incredible story. I think we're all going to enjoy it, and I'll just, kind of ask some questions as we go along.
Perfect.
And yeah, so Sam, do you want to share a little bit about who you are and all the different endeavors that you participate in, which are many and wonderful?
Yes, I will do that as quickly as possible because that could take a long time. Samantha Francis. I am a mystic life coach. I primarily work with people on communication and relationship, but many other things as well. I work a lot with people in the queer community and in the poly community. So that's what I do in that realm. I'm also a musician and an actor. I had a three-piece rock band for about 15 years called Francis and the Foundation. And right now I'm working on some music and theater pieces that to be announced later, more about those. But that's my creative endeavors at the moment. And then I have been sober for nearly 13 years. Next a few weeks, it'll be 13 years. And so I do a lot of work in the recovery community as well. That's probably enough. There's more, but that's enough.
That's wonderful. I think it's safe to say that all those wonderful endeavors that you've participated in happened as a result, or at least some of them, as your life has
Yes.
evolved into a healthier one through recovery. And so, what I'd love to start with is I listened to this gentleman. His name is Chris Herron. He's a famous basketball player. I know a lot of y'all know about that, but I didn't. But I heard him on a podcast, and he asked a really important question. You know, so often when the people we love in our life struggle with addiction, you know, it's, especially as parents, if we have concerns about that, we're always asking that person, what have you been using? How much have you been using? So forth and so on. But we never ask, why have you been using?
Yep.
And kind of want to go back to the very first time that you used. Why did you feel drawn to using?
Gosh. Well, so my father was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I grew up around both sober people and people who are actively in addiction. And I don't remember exactly the first time I ever took a drink. I was little. I was young. There's pictures of me. There's a picture of me where my dad is holding me in his hand and I'm holding a Bud can or something.
Okay.
I don't know if I drank any of that. That might have just been a posed picture, but it's possible that I did.
Yeah.
I remember hearing stories about being a little girl and walking little 2 or 3, walking around the living room, picking up cigarette butts, chewing on them, and then throwing them on the ground and then hitting myself in the hand and going, no, to myself,
mimicking what the experience that you were having. Do you remember the feelings that you were having before you took that first drink?
Yes.
The expectations that you were maybe expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I was afraid of drinking. I got drunk a few times in high school, and I didn't like it, actually. I'm not one of those people who the first time they had a drink felt relief. I was definitely afraid of becoming an alcoholic.
And you can certainly speak to if it was pot and not alcohol, whatever.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean,
I know for me it was pot first.
Yeah.
At 11.
I mean, I smoked
school grounds.
It all was around the same time. I didn't try anything other than pot or alcohol until I was a little bit older.
Right.
I didn't really like being high. I always think that my first addiction was control, because that was how lived in so much chaos that anything I could control helped me feel safe. And so I didn't start drinking the way I wanted to drink until I felt like I had control over the situation, which really wasn't until I was a young adult, 19, 20. Yeah.
So what was going on that you wanted to have that control when you were younger?
Well, so my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was also had addictions. She had eating disorders, all sorts of stuff. A lot of chaos in my home. Um, and so it never felt like there was room or space for me to be in chaos, for me to be to take up space, really. So I always I became fine all the time. Like I became a contained box. And a lot of my childhood, I feel like I was watching the chaos happen. It wasn't directly happening to me. I was mostly just being neglected, is what I know now.
Yeah.
But the way I remember it or experienced it was just sort of witnessing. And the message that I took in was like, there is not space for you to be not okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was just fine and okay and learned to numb how I felt without any drugs or alcohol before I even got to the drugs and alcohol.
So it sounds like you were really trying to control your feelings more than other people.
Yes. Sometimes other people were a part of that.
Yeah.
But it was like
to not be too much, to not be seen, actually, which is so much the opposite of what we need.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And to kind of try and be invisible.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I didn't have an awareness of that. I thought that because I was performing, like I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be heard, and I would have these outbursts once in a while, like of just like, I would just freak out. Like I remember my parents smoked in the house. I remember throwing a fit one time just out of nowhere because I hated how it smelled. I hated how it made my body feel. And I remember just running into the living room and just like throwing a fit about it. But I didn't do stuff like that very often. It was very rare.
You were the good girl.
Yes, but I was also just like, I don't know. I didn't even think about that. I was just there.
Yeah, this is hindsight.
Yeah.
That you're trying to find your place. And your place is to be small, to not take up too much space, not to draw too much attention.
But also to be responsible. It was my job to take care of others a lot. My little sister, my mom when she was sick. I felt responsible to like take care of my brothers in interesting ways, like basically to keep them from having to come take care of things. I would take care of things.
Right.
So my parents both died of cancer when I was a teenager. They were diagnosed when I was in 8th grade when I was 14. And then my dad died my 7th day of high school. And then my mom was sick until she died when I was 18 in 2002.
Wow.
So during that whole time period, yes, like good wasn't even in my head. It was just like, I have to take care of everything. I have to be responsible.
And I'm going to guess that with so much of that illness around you that you had a lot of fear.
Oh, I mean, I used to think I was like actually fearless, but I was in so much terror all the time that I didn't know what it felt like to not be in fear.
Yeah, right. That it became normal.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't learn that until probably in the last like 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Did I know? Yeah. Did I like learn that I was in so much fear that I actually thought I wasn't afraid because I didn't know. I was numb. I was completely numb.
It became the norm. And this is me, and this is how I live my life, and I don't know any different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the theme is probably just survival was always at the base. Like everything I was doing was towards survival, even when I no longer needed to be doing that.
Yeah.
So in adulthood, that looked like, all sorts of different behaviors that didn't really make sense.
As a quest.
Yes.
Yeah. And so really getting in the limelight, it sounds like maybe you ventured into music early on. And getting into the limelight, you get to be seen. And drugs and alcohol certainly help keep all those feelings at bay. Just makes it easier to not feel, right? If that is the way that you survive, is by not feeling.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I was using them to both feel and not feel at the same time.
Tell us
because I
about
couldn't
that.
emote. I was so numb that I like couldn't access feelings. I couldn't cry. I couldn't tell you how I felt. If you asked me how I felt, I would say something like, I think I feel, because I didn't know.
Yeah. I had that exact same experience. I had no language for how I felt. I just know that the times that I did let myself feel, there was fun times that I let myself feel in my early drinking and using, with boys and flirting and, disco dancing and thinking I was the belle of the ball, whatever.
Me too. Yeah.
But there were times when drugs and alcohol would just take over and I would find myself falling apart, just like waves and waves and waves of pain that I had never felt.
Yeah, me too. I have a really, really vivid memory of laying in this band van that when I moved to Nashville, we got this 15-passenger van and moved down here with a band and a boyfriend and a dream and all of that.
Right.
And I remember like rolling around dramatically in the van by myself, because usually when I would cry, I did not let anyone see that.
Yeah.
It took me years to allow anyone to see me vulnerable in that way.
What was the risk that you would have taken had somebody seen you fall apart?
My whole thing was like, I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need anyone, I don't need anything, because if I let you in, like, it was really, in my mind, if I let people fully in, they will leave or die. Full stop.
Right.
They will leave or die.
Which makes sense coming from losing your parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so much of what allows us to be intimate with each other is allowing people to see us fall apart a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe not full on, because I can go there.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to scare anybody.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But to allow that vulnerability so that other person can relate.
Yeah. And I would let some boyfriends and some people see it.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't hide it fully from them.
Yeah.
But
understanding it is a whole other part of recovery. So we'll fast forward a little bit into that.
Yeah.
Why do I feel the way I feel in certain situations where maybe it seems beyond what's reasonable for that situation, right? And when you get sober, I mean, we can go into what happened if you want.
Sure.
That would be lovely. What happened to get you sober?
It's really interesting because it's very random when I got sober. It wasn't some big bottom. I actually hit a pretty low bottom about 6 months to a year before I got sober. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline, but I think I was having a panic attack for about 10 hours, but I didn't know that I was experiencing that. I was actually working at a bar. I worked the entire shift, probably like half dissociated in a panic attack.
Wow.
And then I drank. I was like, well, a glass of wine will calm my nerves. So I drank a bottle and a half of wine.
Right.
And then
we had the best of intentions.
Yes. And it didn't help. And that's like you hear a lot in the rooms, like when the alcohol stopped working, like it did nothing really. And so I like cut my arms up from my wrists up to my shoulder, both sides, just with like a Bic razor, not a suicide attempt at all. It was physical pain to take away the emotional pain.
Wow.
Yeah. And it did work, but it was, I hadn't done that since I was a teenager. I did that a little bit as a teenager. Okay. I did that, actually, that's not true. I had done it in my early 20s too, a few times in like bad relationship times too. Just any time I wanted to not feel emotional pain.
Interesting, because there's probably not a bigger distraction from emotional pain
than physical pain.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is what I consider really my bottom. And after that, what happened was I went on this New York trip for my little sister's 21st birthday. It was like a thing that we used to do in my family. And my brother and sister kind of caught me. And my brother was very dramatic. He's like, I'm going to come down to Nashville and do like You got to figure your.
What did they catch you doing?
Well, they just saw my arms.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't.
I was trying to hide it.
Yeah,
and they saw
yeah.
it.
I gotcha. Okay, that had to be pretty scary for them.
Yeah, yeah. They were, well, and especially because at the time we were living so far apart, and they didn't know what was going on with me really.
Yeah.
And I had kind of shifted quite a bit in a short amount of time. I am one of those people that went from being able to drink kind of normally to being a full-blown alcoholic within about 6 months.
Wow.
And went from being someone who drank a couple of beers or a couple of cocktails to like everyday drinker.
Wow.
Pretty much when I moved to Nashville.
That's rare. I've not heard that from anybody really.
Yeah.
What do you think prompted that? Like,
I think that it was part of me trying to fit in actually when I got here. I went from working at a fancy hotel restaurant and like drinking fancy cocktails and learning about wine to working at a dive bar with a bunch of punk rock kids who drank Jaeger bombs every hour on the hour. And so I just did what they did.
And were there other substances you were using along with alcohol that maybe that kind of helped you manage your feelings before alcohol came along?
Yeah, weed was part of it. And then cocaine became part of it too, here and there. I never had access to enough of that to have a full-blown coke addict addiction.
That's my story actually.
Yeah, I would have. I probably, if I had stayed in Seattle, I probably would have gone down that road more. But I moved here, and there wasn't as much access.
Yeah. Lucky you, really.
Yes. Then now is a very different story in Nashville, but at the time, this was 2006. So I was very controlled in the way that I drank and used drugs. I didn't like mixing things together very much, especially at first. So if I was drinking, I was just drinking. If I was doing drugs, I was just doing drugs. I was doing mushrooms and like that kind of stuff too, trying to have spiritual experiences. I was playing in a rock and roll band, and we were very much trying to be like 60s and 70s vibes. So we were trying to be more like hippies and do psychedelics and all that stuff. So
Gotcha.
That was kind of the path. But I was working at a bar, was drinking while I worked, and and everyone around me was basically doing the same thing. So it didn't feel out of character, out of line at the time. Yeah.
Okay. So you hit this place where you realize that you need help.
Yes.
And
therapy was first for me.
Same.
Yeah. So
thank God for a good therapist.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So I had friends here who worked for a nonprofit who knew about another nonprofit, and they sent me there, the Estuary, where I now work.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I started seeing a therapist there, and that is what kind of started to crack the door open. And I saw her for a while, then I got in a relationship and stopped seeing her for a little while, then I started seeing her again. And my last drink, like the last night that I drank, was like nothing special. I was like on a two weeks of trying not to drink every day and drinking every day and not really knowing why, because I had nothing to blame it on. And that's why I think I got sober when I did. I hadn't just gotten out of a bad relationship. I actually had a really good job at the time. I was musically, things were going well. I was really happy in the band that I was in. My living situation was good. I had nothing to blame it on, but I couldn't stop drinking.
Yeah.
And I admitted that to my therapist.
That's wonderful that you had that awareness and woke up to, oh, this is more than situational. This is something physical, some sort of craving, obsession.
I mean, I knew I was an alcoholic for a few years before I got sober. I knew, but because I grew up around the program. My cousin got sober at 19.
So it was
his dad has been sober my whole life.
To have all that to witness, to kind of determine, oh, okay, I've reached that place.
Yeah. Yep. I hit that point where I knew like, okay, I can't deny this anymore. I can't wait any longer. And I think I very much see like my higher power in the fact that when I hit that point, I like set all these alarms in my phone like the night before when I was drunk that said like, you're becoming your father, you promised yourself you would never be this, you would never do this, all these things that I was basically shaming the hell out of myself.
Wow.
But the next day was a therapy session, and I showed my therapist all of that and admitted it. And then I said, I think I'm going to go, I'll work all 12 steps and then I'll decide if I'm a alcoholic, because I didn't know what they were.
Yeah. It takes a while to really own that.
Yeah.
I always heard it was better to get sober by mistake than be out there by mistake.
That is what kind of happened to me.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, I know this is where I'm supposed to go. And I kept trying to do it right,
Yeah. So how did you learn to deal with all these feelings that you hadn't had practice dealing with?
Therapy, a lot of therapy. So in early sobriety, I did a ton of EMDR and brain spotting.
Great.
Like a lot. And I think I'd been maybe sober 2-3 years, somewhere in there, when I had this really intense dream where my dad like made an amends to me in the dream.
Wow.
And it was like, we were like at a family gathering in the dream. And it was as if we were sitting at a table and he was explaining to me why he was never able to get sober. Because we had like interventions and stuff. I remember, I always knew he was an alcoholic because my aunt and uncle were always trying to help him get sober for years and years and years. And he just never could do it. He was a heroin addict too. He was like, I walked in on my parents smoking crack when I was like 8.
Wow.
So like he was a very like heavy duty addict. Yeah. And when that happened, when I had that dream,
how did it feel to have that experience?
It was as if I was grieving his death for the first time.
Wow.
Even like I had suppressed the emotions, and he died when I was 14. So this is like, at this point would have been like 12 or 15 years later, something like that. I'm not sure of the math, but it was and luckily my therapist was like, she probably was like, oh, thank God, because I was a hard nut to crack.
Tell me more about that. Are you still that way?
I can be. I try not to be.
And how does that help you in life to be that hard nut to crack? And what ages are instituting that strategy?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, my teenage self, so much because she had to take control.
Right.
But she never learned how to let go of the reins. Yeah. And she's pissed. She's been so mad for so long. So
about
life's not fair.
Life's not being fair.
Life's not fair, and I have to do it myself. Like I have to
all by myself.
Yes. To do it by myself. I have to work. That's like later in sobriety, I was like, oh, the addiction I moved into was work.
Yeah. Right. So still trying to keep the lid on, and still that's a pattern that you struggle with.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think that's so common that we have other strategies.
Oh yeah.
Along, once we let go of substances, that's the real work. Is we are every age we've ever been.
Right.
And what age is still holding on to those strategies that keep us separate, that have the illusion that by doing so we're safe.
Yes, and the word safe is so important.
Yeah.
I think that was like learning how to tell my inner child and my teenage self that I'm safe, that everything is okay, that there is enough.
Yeah.
Because
they're loved.
That they're loved.
And not alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that everyone they love is not going to die tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love and truth. Seems to be the healing principles once we get sober. And I think that's true for any human, actually.
Absolutely. You don't have to have a low bottom to have all of those things.
Yeah. So I'm just sitting here kind of marveling at where you came from and where you are.
Yeah.
Do you have times where you're just like, my story, this should never have been. I should have died then, or I could still be drinking and using. I'm young, because you got sober at 28. 28.
Yeah, 28. But I really didn't even start using or drinking intensely until about 22. So it was a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I'm super grateful for. Okay, I'm gonna get woo woo. I'm gonna get woo woo. I very much have felt.
I was counting on that.
Yeah. I have felt very protected throughout my whole life. I feel like I have been very protected if I look back at all of the things that did not happen to me when I was in my using days, especially, I don't know very many women, especially in the rooms, who I've never been sexually assaulted. I mean, there were things that I did in that realm that don't align with how I feel about myself and what I would have wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I was never assaulted. And
thank God.
I know. I'm very grateful for it. And I'm grateful I don't have that particular trauma, because I can help other people who do have that particular trauma, because I don't. And that has been really useful in my coaching practice and also just in my life and with my sponsees. Yeah, I'm very grateful for it. And it's really sad how rare it is. It makes me very sad to think about how rare that is.
Yeah.
So that is, like, I've felt very protected. I very much feel like I've had, whether it's ancestors, guides, whatever words you want to put to that, I have been protected since I was a little kid. And I also very much am someone who believes that, like, now that this was all meant to happen for what I'm doing now. Wonderful. And for how I'm supposed to use my story to help other people.
Yeah.
But yes, I've definitely had a lot of angry moments. Especially I've had in recent years, there's been a lot of grief and frustration and anger that's come up for the other adults in my life who didn't help me, who didn't show up when I was a child. And, like, you know, I recently forgave my grandmother, who it took me many, 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 many years to forgive, because right after my mother died, she just, like, stone cold told me to my face that it was my fault that I didn't do a good enough job taking care of her.
Wow.
Yeah. And my grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. This was, like, a tough lady.
Wow.
So, you know, I can forgive her so much so now, knowing the pain she was in losing her daughter. They had an extremely codependent relationship that I'm aware of now too. And also I can grieve for the, 18-year-old little girl who was like, where the fuck were all of you guys?
Yes.
Like, what, why was this my job?
Exactly.
So
you mentioned awareness. And I think that's the gift, isn't it? As it's good news and bad news.
Yeah.
Right? Because as you get this awareness, you also have to deal with the pain, the unfelt emotions of the experiences themselves.
Yeah.
But in doing so, we get on the other side and we get to become the women that can live a different life than our parents and our grandparents, right?
Yep.
And so tell us about that.
Yeah, we get to release that generational trauma. And coming from the family bloodline that I do, there's a lot of generational trauma.
Right.
But I think that's actually true for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting. So I've chosen not to have children. And actually all of my mother's children have chosen not to have children, which is interesting. And it feels, there's been moments where I've felt a guilt about that, just because my mother was wonderful in a lot of ways, even inside of her sickness.
Yeah.
But I do also have a belief that, like, while yes, I believe in generational trauma, I also kind of believe we all come from the same ooze. So it's all interconnected anyways. Like, I'm no different than you.
Right.
Anyways.
Exactly.
Maybe in this physical form I am, but not in the greater scheme of.
Right. Well, we're all stardust, aren't we?
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes, yeah. And I'm all about Kabbalah, so I'm like, yes, in the spiritual realm that exists, we are all, same. Yeah. I like to think of, like, this mushy ooze that we all kind of, like, slime that we, like, go back into, and then we're, like, come back into. It's also sort of Buddhist thought. Anyways, it goes into lots of different thoughts.
I love it.
This is how my brain works.
It's
like, ooh, this.
Okay, so here you are. You've grown into the woman that is doing amazing things in your life. And one of those amazing things is something that I'm sure not a lot of people have experimented with.
Yes.
And which is poly.
Yes, polyamory.
So I think of that, and and I think about, welcome, Ollie.
Hello.
Okay, I think he probably sensed a little emotion coming from you. He's like,
know. Hi, bud.
this woman
okay.
needs some comfort.
Well, and me and animals, we have a thing we have since I was a kid.
Hi.
You can
so
make.
I was thinking that had to be a bit of a challenge to move away from what is expected of us,
Yes.
us women, and choose a lifestyle that's a better fit for you. So do you want to share?
Yeah,
a little
absolutely.
bit about that?
Well, and the thing that's been really interesting about polyamory, that's really connected to what we've been talking about for me, is that it made me work on a lot of that abandonment stuff that I didn't know how much of it was still there. Like, if me and my long-term partner, Seth, and I hadn't opened up and become polyamorous, I don't know that I would have gotten the opportunity to do some of the inner child work that I've done, because it just couldn't not be done.
Yeah, I've understood that conflict creates growth.
Yes.
And because when I think about having more than one partner, I think that's a lot of work.
And it is.
That's a lot of work just with one. Yeah. I can't imagine having two.
It is and it's not. It just depends on the scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's experience of that is different. But for me, what was a lot of work early on was, as we opened up, there were just all these hidden triggers I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
And so much of it was related to time. I had no idea that I had such a bizarre relationship to time.
Okay.
Because my partner Seth would say, like, oh, I'll be home by X amount of X time. If he wasn't home exactly by that time, in my mind, he was dead. Like, it was very extreme. And I knew, like, in the moment, I knew I was having an extreme experience, but it just made me do some work around, like, okay, I want control over every aspect of everything because it makes me feel safe.
Right.
It also, like, I later found out that I have some OCD, and so it was like triggering OCD stuff in me. And it helped me to do a lot of somatic work to learn how, okay, when this thing gets triggered in my body, how to bring myself back to a space of, like, reasonable experience.
Yeah.
Not to deny the feelings that are showing up, but to realize that I'm having an extreme response to something very simple.
So just more opportunity to, it reminds me of Carl Jung, who talks about until we make the unconscious conscious.
Yep.
I think he says it will dictate our life and we'll call it fate.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah. I could see how you would get a lot more opportunity.
Oh my gosh,
to uncover, as we say in the program, uncover, discover, and discard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that continues. Of course, the thing that's interesting about polyamory is it's not as different as it seems it is. Culturally, we are sort of told that it's like completely, but really, if we have a lot of close friends in our life, it's not that different than that. Like, my other partner doesn't take up as much space in my life as my live-in partner.
Okay.
And it can look a lot of different ways. This is just how we practice.
Yeah.
The people that I am with. And it's very kitchen table is the term, but we all know each other. We all have relationships in some way, whether they're just friendships or physical relationships or romantic relationships.
So you have a friendship with your other partner's wife or girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah.
And are you and Seth married? You are.
We are
right?
married.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your husband has connection with your other partner's wife as well.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, he hasn't met my other partner's wife yet, but he will. I've spent time with her. So he has another partner who he's been with for 3 years, and her and I are very good friends at this point.
Isn't that so fascinating?
Yeah, and her and I have, like, put work into that and effort into that.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that we just like each other. Like, we just have a lot in common. We just like each other. That doesn't always happen.
I can't imagine the amount of advanced communication skills that it would take to navigate those relations. I mean,
it does.
Everybody's going to get triggered, I'm sure, at some point into jealousy and so forth. to navigate that is just admirable. Really,
thank you. Yeah,
really is.
It is. It does take a lot of communication. That's why. I mean, that's one of my specialties as a coach.
Yes. Yes.
I am like a big believer that communication can kind of solve everything.
Yeah.
If you are communicating what is real, what is true for you.
Yeah.
He really wants to be a part of the podcast. Really
what is up with you, Mr. Okay. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable with that part of your share, Absolutely. Your story. I think that's so helpful for people to know that, once you get into recovery, you begin to discover what your preferences are and your interests, and thankfully, mm-hmm. in today's time, us women, we get to be the captain of our ship.
That's right.
and because there would have been a day that even if you had wanted to experiment with that, you probably would not have felt safe to do so. So it's admirable that you're adventurous in finding your own way of life that is a good fit for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you've got this coaching business that you're participating in or putting together. How long have you been doing that?
So I've been officially a certified coach since 2019. I've been doing things in the coaching realm on and off for a number of years.
Okay.
But I've been pursuing it as a career and a little bit more in a more focused way since 2019.
And how much of that work are people in recovery or not in recovery?
Well, at first it was a lot of people in recovery, actually, specifically like people that I knew or people like friends of friends in recovery. And that still is absolutely people who come to me. But what's been really interesting recently is that I've had people come to me from other places and then end up in recovery working with me. Not out of any,
interesting,
multiple clients in a row where that wasn't even, I didn't even know. I didn't have an idea of that they might be struggling with that at first. We were working on completely different things.
Okay.
And then somewhere in the middle of our work together, they say, oh, I think I might have a problem with drinking. Oh, I think I might have it's not always substance abuse stuff. Sometimes I'm sending people to ACA or OA or different things, but it's like almost every client I end up suggesting a 12-step program to, and I'm like, is this me? And then I think about my guides and I think about it and I'm like, no, they are being called to come to me because I'm a segue, just in the same way that my therapist was for me in some ways, although she wasn't a member of the program.
I love synchronicity so much. Yes. To me, it's evidence that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
There's something really comforting about that life is on our side, and and that we're not in this alone.
Yeah.
Which, that's something we've talked about often, is this sense that we can't trust. And to be able to trust that life is on our side is huge, coming from not trusting anybody and having to have all the control.
Yes, and for years I was like, if there is a God, screw you, God. Yeah. That's where I was with it for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to not be there anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting when we open our minds to a higher power, we do get evidence, but when we're shut down, we're not seeing it, even if it's there.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful thing. What else do you want to share, just, that you were curious to maybe approach with this chat? Was there anything that we didn't tackle or discuss, any topic that you felt was important?
No, there's nothing I can think of. Just based on what you just said, I just thought of music and just how grateful I am to be an artist, and how like that also informs my ability to have a spiritual experience.
Tell us about the music that how it's a part of your life now that you're not in that band anymore.
Sure. Well, I mean, I started in music as a kid in choir. I was in a competitive children's choir. Somehow, inside of all of that chaos, I was able to be in a competitive children's choir. Thanks to many different things. But that was where I learned that connection and that feeling. And I grew up in a very musical family, a lot of artists in my family. And my mom was very artistic.
Okay.
And so she would always put me in front of clay or, paint or something like that.
Yeah.
And so now my spiritual connection is very much met through creativity a lot of the time. It's a good conduit. And I'm still learning right now what the next phase of like me as an artist is, because for years I thought I was supposed to be this like rock and roll chick, and then that like totally I couldn't be that and heal.
Interesting.
Because it was like an alter ego kind of. There's still a piece of me that is that, and is a more empowered version.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. It became so much of my identity that I didn't like it anymore. Didn't want it anymore.
I so get that.
Yeah. And the music, I didn't love the music anymore. It just kind of lost all of its stuff.
Right.
But now my main focus in life is telling my story in a way that will be helpful and useful. And I want to do that as a coach, and I want to do that as a storyteller just in general, and as a musician and as an artist. Yeah. So I'm just of looking for lots of different places to do that.
Yeah. Well, you've done that today with me.
Thank you.
Beautifully.
Thank you.
Beautifully.
You're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm curious, and I think that like we've talked about, getting down to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
What is motivating us to act out the behavior that we sometimes find troublesome in our life, that puts us in positions to be hurt.
Yes.
And so often the story does start and end with, I was hurt, it was familiar, I went on to hurt myself, right? And put myself in situations where I was being hurt.
Yep.
And that the healing is to get comfortable with love.
Yes. And especially loving ourselves.
Yeah.
And being able to just be ourselves, regardless of what is happening around us. Like, just be who we are.
Be who we are, and all that goes with that, and ask for help when we need it.
Yes.
Because, recovery is so much more than not drinking and using.
I mean, that's like 3% of it.
Yeah. It's just the very beginning. The journey is so much more about identifying ourselves with ourselves.
Yeah.
And not the stories of our past.
Yeah. Learning who we are.
Yeah. Exactly. And who you've become and who you are becoming is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad I got to sit down with you today.
Me too.
Appreciate you coming, and I adore you and love you.
I love you too.
Thank
you.